What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Thursday, February 15th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 8:43 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to just update you guys on the situation with the Russian nukes in space. We also had more nuclear war command and control planes and doomsday planes in the air today. We have some concerning information coming out of Poland and the Caucasus region, and also some more concerning information coming out of the Middle East. So I want to just start with some of the nuclear warplanes that were active today. What you're looking at here is a nuke sniffer plane, a doomsday plane, and a nuclear war command and control plane. They were all up in the air at the same time earlier this afternoon and in the evening. Now, the nuke sniffer plane flew around Iowa and it landed at Offutt Air Base. And the doomsday plane went east across Kansas and it actually turned its transponder off. Okay, so we had a doomsday plane up in the air again with its transponder off. And we also had a nuclear war command and control plane flying around Oklahoma. Okay, so U.S. nuclear forces are still on high alert after the news broke yesterday of this national security threat. Now, the White House said today that the national security threat raised by U.S. lawmakers involves Russia developing an anti-satellite weapon, which I told you guys is a bunch of BS. And the reason why it's BS is because yesterday, two sources familiar with deliberations on Capitol Hill said the national security threat had to do with the Russians wanting to put a nuclear weapon into space. So I want to just kind of summarize all the different things our government has been telling us about this. And first, it started out as a national security threat that was unspecified. Then they said that it was a Russian national security threat. Then it was Russian nuclear weapons in space. And then it was a strategic game changer. Then it was nuclear weapons used to destroy satellites. Then it was not nuclear weapons to destroy the satellites, but nuclear powered weapons to destroy satellites. So we went from an imminent national security threat that was so serious that the House Intel Committee felt a need to share it with all of Congress and demand that Biden declassify information about it with Congress. And apparently, the congressmen were spotted going into the SCIF below the Capitol, which is a secure bunker underneath the Capitol, to get briefed on the situation yesterday, to the point where now we're hearing from House Speaker Mike Johnson that there is, quote unquote, no need for public alarm and that it's just a nuclear powered anti-satellite weapon. Okay, so you see how they morphed it over time. Okay, they made a huge deal out of it. Oh, this is a national security threat. We have to have a Gang of Eight meeting. Very serious situation, and the House Intel chairman, Mike Turner, sent out a notice to all congressmen saying that this was very serious. Okay, Marco Rubio also said the same thing. And then they went from that to this was a Russian national security threat. Then we heard that it was about Russia putting nuclear weapons in space. Now they've transitioned it to, oh, they just want to take out satellites. Oh, and they're not nuclear armed. They're just nuclear powered. So I think that's a load of crap. Okay. I think that Russia deployed nuclear warheads into space and they're trying to make up some kind of story so there's no panic. Okay. As far as I know, the last time there was a Gang of Eight briefing from the White House was back in the early 2000s after 9/11, when the Bush administration was briefing the Gang of Eight on the warrantless searches they were doing across America as part of the Patriot Act. Okay. So over 20 years we're talking about. Okay. So this is very serious. They usually don't call Gang of Eight meetings unless there's some kind of extraordinary situation that either requires covert action or is time sensitive or something like that. Okay, so this is not about a anti-satellite weapon. That's a bunch of BS. Okay, that's what they want you to believe to try to make you feel better. Okay, the truth is that Russia put nuclear warheads into space, which is a violation of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, which says that no weapons of mass destruction should be put into outer space by any nation. And why is that such a threat? Because if they have nuclear warheads in space, that basically eliminates our ability to detect a launch. All right, because our early warning radars detect when a missile is launched from the ground somewhere, let's say in Russia or wherever. They can track the missile going up into space because it goes like 1,000 miles straight up into space. So they can track that and they can calculate a time of arrival and a trajectory, possible point of impact. But if they already have the warheads, let's say on satellites, which is not hard to do, okay, all they have to, one warhead weighs just a couple 100 pounds. Okay, one warhead is just a few 100 pounds. So they could put like 10 warheads on one satellite and just maneuver that satellite to wherever they want to hit with the warheads. And the warheads have their own rocket boosters that can steer the warhead to their targets, okay, for better accuracy. All right. But basically, you're eliminating the entire missile part. Okay. There's no more missile because the warheads are on a satellite floating over Earth in low Earth orbit. Okay, so there's no way for us to detect when they release those warheads until those warheads are starting to enter Earth's atmosphere. And at that point, you're talking minutes, less than 5 minutes to respond, which is not enough time. So that would give Russia the capability of a surprise attack with little to no warning. Basically, we would have little to no warning. They could destroy our bomber bases, they could hit our VIPs, they could even hit the White House and try to take out our chain of command. Okay, because we're talking less than 5 minutes. Once those warheads are dropped from space, there's not much time there, okay, before they hit the ground. All right, so they're trying to downplay that, but this is basically like a Cuban Missile Crisis of our time. And Russia on Thursday dismissed House GOP warnings that Moscow is planning to put nuclear weapons in space, claiming the reports are a political ruse orchestrated by the White House to pressure Congress into releasing funds for Ukraine amid continued Republican opposition. Media reports suggesting Russia plans to position nuclear weapons in space are nothing more than an obvious trick by the White House designed to push Congress into voting to approve more aid for Ukraine, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, according to Russian state news agency TASS. It's obvious that Washington is trying to force Congress to vote on the aid bill by hook or by crook, Peskov said. And Peskov declined to comment on the content of the reports and said Moscow will wait until Washington releases more details from its intelligence. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov also denied the reports, dismissing them as unfounded and a malicious fabrication from the U.S. So this is very serious, guys. This is like a Cuban Missile Crisis, okay? This is as bad as the Cuban Missile Crisis because we'll have little to no warning. They could launch a surprise attack on us. And of all administrations for Russia to deploy nuclear weapons in space, it would be the Biden administration because Putin knows that Biden is predictably weak and he's not going to do much about it. Okay. We have some concerning information coming out of the Caucasus. The Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikolai Pashinyan, stated today that they have received intelligence which indicates that Azerbaijan is preparing for full-scale war with Armenia. And what's interesting is yesterday, the Azerbaijani president or prime minister Aliyev said that the Third World War has already begun. So looks like Azerbaijan is going to go after Armenia now. This is very interesting. And we have some concerning news coming out of Poland. Apparently, there's been heavy military reinforcements by the Royal British Army heading to Poland as NATO forces are preparing for a possible conflict with Russia. The UK Daily Mail has reported around 600 British trucks were packed into two vast cargo vessels bound for Europe, along with around 1,500 troops who will head out to Poland. And I have some video footage here coming from northeastern Poland showing a U.S. Army convoy moving through the city of Białystok. Białystok is northeastern Poland, okay, not far from the Suwalki Gap. Okay, this is that critical area of Poland that many war planners think Russia will try to conquer to create a land bridge to Kaliningrad from Belarus. But you can see these two big 18-wheelers of the U.S. Army moving through northeastern Poland near the Suwalki Gap. This is not that far from the Suwalki Gap, guys. And I don't know what's on these trucks. If anybody out there who's been in the Army and they've driven trucks or something for the Army, if you could take a guess as to what could possibly be in these trucks. Like this truck right here just looks like it could be, maybe ammunition or supplies. It's just like one giant container of some kind or two shipping containers put together, it looks like. But what's interesting is this first truck here, this truck right here. Okay, you see there's like one large container and then there's like a smaller container behind it. Okay, I don't know if that's anything to be concerned about. Maybe it's just ammunition and supplies. But these two 18-wheelers here, and this is just one clip. So apparently sources in the area said there were a lot of U.S. Army vehicles going through Białystok. Okay, so this could be the U.S. Army preparing for a Russian invasion of northeastern Poland, and they're pre-positioning ammo and supplies and different things. Okay, so I'm very concerned that Russia is going to try to invade northeastern Poland and make that land bridge to Kaliningrad. And in my update earlier today, I showed you guys a video where a Russian journalist asked Putin if he preferred Biden or Trump. And he actually said Biden because he said Biden was predictable and that Biden was an old school politician. So what does this mean? This confirms my worst fears that I've been warning you guys about the past few weeks. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. This is a 1-month freeze-dried food supply. It has a 25-year shelf life. Normal price is $237. They've dropped it down to $177. So that's a savings of $60. And it's all packed within 2 rugged, water-resistant buckets. Free shipping is included. $177 for 1 month of food. Where are you going to find a deal like that? They also have a general store, and they're always running discounts in their general store on various prepping and survival items. They have everything from MREs, potassium iodide, to survival seeds. And to get to their general store, you got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. And you'll see when you get there, they have everything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $60 off the My Patriot Supply 1-month emergency food supply. That's $180 for 1 month of food, free shipping included. The link is in the description below this video. And also check out their general store. They have everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always running various discounts there, which is that Russia actually prefers Biden because they know Biden is weak and they know that they can basically do a lot of stuff and get away with it. But if Trump gets into office, things might change. Okay. Trump may be tougher on Putin. Okay. The whole dynamic can change completely. So Putin may decide to invade Northeast Poland and the Baltics before Trump gets sworn in or before the election. Okay. And Russia did this before. In 2008, Putin ordered the invasion of the Republic of Georgia in the South Caucasus. Okay. And this was actually right before the Obama McCain election. This was in August of 2008. Okay. So don't be surprised if a war breaks out in Northeast Poland and the Baltics this summer or this fall, between the time that the election occurs and the swearing in. If, let's say, Trump actually wins, there's that 2 to 3 month period before the next president is sworn in, and during that period, Putin could make his move. Okay, out of fear that he may lose that opportunity once Trump gets in office, or Nikki Haley, or so I'm very concerned, guys. This is very, very serious. And let me just show you guys a picture here of all these British Army trucks that are going to Poland. 600 British Army trucks, guys. And this exercise supposedly is going to last through June. I've never heard of an exercise that lasts 4 months. Okay. And Poland has already issued a massive air navigation warning for the eastern half of their country that goes all the way through May. Okay. And the air navigation warning is for pilots flying between ground level and 9,500 feet. And it says that pilots need to be aware that the Polish military may take unplanned military actions to ensure state security. Okay. I want to just show you guys all the reconnaissance activity that's been occurring over Poland the last 2 days. This was last night. We had a U.S. reconnaissance plane patrolling off the coast of Kaliningrad. We had multiple NATO aerial refuelers. We had a Swedish reconnaissance plane patrolling the Polish-Russian border and the Polish-Belarus border. We had a NATO AWACS plane in northern Poland. And then 2 nights ago, we had an Italian reconnaissance plane in northeast Poland. We had a Swedish reconnaissance plane in northeast Poland. We had the Polish border guard flying along the Russian-Polish border. We had NATO AWACS plane, multiple aerial refuelers. Okay, so NATO is keeping a close eye on Poland, okay, and the Baltics. Now, Russia is claiming that they shot down 14 rockets that were fired at Belgorod, which is a city in Russia, from Ukraine. They're claiming that at least 6 people have been killed. And what you're looking at here is a picture of some kind of small mall in Belgorod that was supposedly hit by these rockets. Let me read to you what the Russian embassy is saying. The Kiev regime has attacked Belgorod region using RM-70 Vampire MLRS, multiple launch rocket system. 6 people, including a child, have been killed, and at least 20 residents are reported to have been wounded in the latest cross-border attack. Emergency services are on the scene, and the death toll is likely to rise. Ukrainian army's shelling struck a shopping center nestled between residential buildings, along with the sports stadium of a nearby school. The targeted area, comprising solely civilian infrastructure, libraries, hospitals, shops, and educational institutions, bore the brunt of the attack. And then they say that there were 3 other attacks, supposedly by the Ukrainian military in recent weeks. They point out the attack on the Donetsk marketplace, where supposedly 27 Russians were killed, a bakery in Lysychansk, where 28 were killed, and the Belgorod city center, where 21 were killed. So you see where this is going, guys. Russia is trying to build the case that Ukraine is now attacking civilians. And this is going to be the justification that Putin needs to escalate to the next level. And the Russian Ministry of Defense provided a picture here of one of these rockets, supposedly. Okay, I mean, they could have just placed that there. I mean, rockets like these are easy to find, especially during a war. Okay, so very serious situation. And apparently, Belarus declared a counter-terrorism operation in the Lelchitsky district of Gomel on the border with Ukraine. So Lelchitsky district of Gomel. If you remember Gomel, that's where Russia and Belarus invaded Ukraine from in the beginning of the war when they were trying to close in on Kyiv. Gomel is just north of Chernobyl. It's just like 50 miles from the Ukrainian border. So I don't know what's going on over there, but this is pretty interesting. And U.S. officials have apparently informed Iran that the U.S. will attack Iranian sites if an escalation occurs. This was reported by Al Arabia. And the Israeli Defense Forces have launched a round of airstrikes targeting Hamas on the outskirts of Rafah. That was this evening. So more airstrikes on Rafah. This is clearly a sign that Israel is getting ready to go in on the ground. They're just, hitting from the air first, the main targets, and then they're going to go in on the ground. They're softening up, their targets. NATO leader Jens Stoltenberg said today, "We made it very clear to Moscow that President Putin should not expand the conflict beyond Ukraine." And a Houthi spokesman said that they hit a British ship in the Gulf of Aden today with naval missiles. Okay. So another British ship was hit by Houthi missiles. This is not good. Here we have a warning from the British Maritime Organization. And you can see it occurred at 13:45 UTC time. So the situation there is continuing to escalate. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will visit Cuba and Venezuela this month. There were some recent reports suggesting that Moscow was considering the possibility of deploying nuclear warheads and air defense systems in Cuba. Okay. And if they did that, would Biden do anything about it? Probably not. Okay. Just like now, he's not doing anything about the nukes in space, which is actually a bigger threat than any nukes in Cuba. And the White House has reported that the Ukrainian front line in Avdiivka is at risk of falling to Russia. Ukrainian forces are withdrawing several units from Avdiivka, while roughly 1,500 to 2,000 troops are now trapped under fire in the southern district after their evacuation route was captured recently by Russian forces. The 3rd Assault Brigade, while assisting in the controlled withdrawal, have attempted a number of breakthroughs, but so far they seem to have failed. Okay, so this 3rd Assault Brigade, I think, is the elite brigade that they sent to Avdiivka. So far, no progress, even with that elite brigade. And according to several senior U.S. officials, the U.S. military launched a covert cyber attack last week against the Iranian command and surveillance ship, which has been loitering in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden since October, reportedly providing targeting information of commercial ships and U.S. warships to the Houthis in Yemen. The attack is claimed to have been one of the response options chosen by Biden following the drone attack last month by Iranian-backed forces against the U.S. operations base in northeast Jordan, which resulted in the death of 3 American soldiers. And the deputy commander of U.S. Central Command, Vice Admiral Brad Cooper, stated today during an interview with 60 Minutes that there is now complete evidence that members of the IRGC of Iran are on the ground in Yemen assisting the Houthi group with targeting of commercial ships as well as U.S. Navy warships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Wow, guys, that is huge. And Iran-backed militias are attacking some points under the control of the Syrian Democratic Forces in eastern Syria. Now, the Syrian Democratic Forces are American-backed forces in Syria. So the Iranian-backed forces are attacking the American-backed forces in Syria, in eastern Syria. There is a significant increase in the scale of attacks carried out by these Iran-backed militias supported by the IRGC against areas controlled by U.S. troops and SDF forces. Okay, so they're significantly increasing the scale of their attacks. And the commander of the IRGC said that Iran has gained the ability to fight wars at a distance. And this comes after Iran test launched a container missile, the Club K. Okay, they test fired a Club K launcher, and they hit a bunch of targets in Iran from a long distance away. They did a simulated missile strike on an Israeli F-35 base in Iran. The Russian Federation has deployed more troops to the Orikhiv direction than to the Avdiivka direction. They are planning an offensive. This was reported by the Tavria Operational Command. So, looks like Russia is going to attempt to conduct an offensive in Zaporizhia Oblast. Okay, Orikhiv is in southern Ukraine. It's not far from Melitopol, which is one of the areas the Ukrainians were attempting to attack during the counterstrike, the failed counterstrike. Okay, so very interesting. Russia is going to try to maybe gain more territory over there. Not a good sign for the Ukrainians, guys. And a group of allies in NATO are going to join forces to transfer 1 million drones to Ukraine. Okay, that's what Jens Stoltenberg, the leader of NATO, said today at the defense ministers' meeting. The Estonian Foreign Ministry summoned the charge d'affaires of Russia in connection with the decision to put Estonia's prime minister on the wanted list in Russia. Okay, absolutely insane. And I want to just summarize the results of the NATO defense ministers meeting that was held today. Apparently, they discussed ramping up ammunition production. The Secretary General made clear that there is a need to shift from the slow pace of peacetime to the high tempo production demanded by conflict in order to refill stocks and continue to support Ukraine. So they want to put NATO into a wartime production mode, okay? Ministers also addressed the deteriorating security environment. The Secretary General confirmed that while we do not see any imminent military threat against the alliance, NATO continues to ensure there is no room for miscalculation in Moscow about our readiness to protect all allies. Allies held an exchange with Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, who remotely joined a meeting of the NATO Ukraine Council, underlining the importance of continued support. Mr. Stoltenberg welcomed recent announcements of support, including from Canada, Finland, and Norway, covering key capabilities like the F-16 equipment and spare parts, as well as air defense. At the meeting, the defense ministers also decided to create a new NATO-Ukraine Joint Analysis, Training, and Education Center in Poland to share lessons learned from Russia's war and create a structure for Ukrainian forces to learn and train alongside their allied counterparts. Wow. Okay, I reported on this earlier. Basically, they're going to open up a training center in Poland to train Ukrainians on NATO equipment. Okay, this is very serious, guys. This could, motivate Russia to launch an attack on Poland. Okay. We also have some breaking news that apparently the U.S. is going to be deploying 5 aircraft carriers to the Western Pacific in a show of strength to China. Now, just last week, the U.S. did a massive exercise with B-52s in Guam and also fighter jets. They did a massive elephant walk where they sent B-52s and fighter jets to the air, like, dozens of them, okay? So something's brewing in the Western Pacific, guys. All right. Things are really escalating on all fronts. And here we have some Hezbollah fighters that were eliminated today by an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon. Apparently, they were members of Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces. Okay. So, pretty interesting. And the Philippines Navy has deployed a warship to its western waters to safeguard maritime interests off the waters of Palawan Island facing the South China Sea to protect its maritime interests, senior Navy official told Reuters. This comes after various attacks by the Chinese Coast Guard against vessels of the Philippine Coast Guard in the disputed water of the South China Sea. Now, the Philippines just passed a law stating that any artificial islands built within their exclusive economic zone would be considered Philippine territory. Okay, so this is that island where the Philippines have deployed a warship, okay, the Palawan Island. Very serious situation in the Philippines. Things are really escalating all over the world. And I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news. So, hope you guys have a good night. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.